So are we gonna have a spring without bees because of colony collapse disorder? Are bees disappearing? No, right? Because colony collapse disorder affects honeybees, which is a single species of bee. And we know that there are lots of them. And the other species of bees are unaffected. Honeybees are really unique, even among bees. They're unique here because they're not native to here. They're native to Eurasia. They were brought to the U.S. as an introduced species, and they're extremely social, very highly social, so much more than most bees. There are other very social bee species. They're not the only ones, but it's far more common that bees are solitary. They live an independent life like most animals.
So they were brought on purpose or like accident?
Yep, brought on purpose by people to pollinate crops and make honey. And it's because they can be brought, because it's easy to, build a box, put some frames in there, and sort of entice them to come live in it, and then you can carry them around and easily move them around with you, which is not the case for most of these other bees, which are solitary. And so they nest just by themselves. One female will dig her own nest and lay her eggs in there independently.
You cut this over yourself?
I did.
You should have time for that.
Do you know how many of these boxes I have?
A lot. That's kind of your head still.
Well, it was my whole dissertation was catching
Oh.
specimens and then identifying them all, which took way more time to catch them in the first place. But yeah, I have
How did you catch them?
with a net. No, not a lot. So I have about affects only the honeybees. So it's not going to make bees disappear. We won't have a spring without bees. But it is worrisome for honeybees because they're the only thing that we get honey from. There are some other bees that make honey, but they're in South America. Their honey's really domesticated. They don't make up really any of our honey supply. And most of our managed pollination services are honeybees, by far. There are a couple other species that are managed, but those are all still kind of in the experimental stages of like, let's try this other species and see if it works. So honeybees are the pollinator that are easily controlled, that you can pay someone to bring it to your field at the time that your flowers are in bloom to kind of ensure that you know you're going to get pollinators there. Because most of these other species can't be controlled. They're either in the environment or they're not, and there are probably plenty of them there, but you can't be sure of it. So when colony collapse disorder really started being in the news in 2006, people got really freaked out. It's become something that people talk about a little less more recently because it seems to have stabilized at least since then. So that you're not seeing the more recent data here, but what's happened since 2007 is there was a big drop during the 2006, 2007 years, but then after that it stabilized. But you can see that there were already many fewer honeybees being kept in this country than historically anyway. And the biggest decline that we see over this part of time, so up until colony collapse disorder hit, was associated with parasitic mites being introduced into the United States. So those were also mentioned in your readings a bit. They're called varroa mites, and they're little tiny mites that live on the bees. They're red, and I see them sometimes on my samples. Yeah, you can, if you're looking at it in the microscope, you can see it's got little mites living on it. And varroa mites can get in really high abundance and really just they'll sort of suck all the life out of bees, out of honeybees. So they're also another thing specific to honeybees. And they pretty much wiped out the feral colonies of honeybees in the U.S. There used to be many more wild honeybees. They were all escaped from domestication because they're not native here. But it used to be more common that you could find feral honeybees living in a tree or something. They would have just escaped from some farm or whatever, and started their own colonies somewhere else. And it still happens sometimes, but they tend not to persist because the mites will eventually find them and sneak them out. Whereas beekeepers do all kinds of things to keep the mites out of their colonies, including so there was a big decline because of the mites, and then in 2006 is when we had these sort of dramatic die-offs associated with colony collapse disorder. But it's still really poorly understood. And it's not even clear whether what happened in 2006 was a previously unknown disease of the bees, or if it had just been happening in much lower numbers for previous years, and then that was a particularly bad year for it, and people disagree about that. But what happens is that from the sort of beekeeper's perspective, they'll go out to his hives, and suddenly they'll all be empty of the workers. So honeybees have different castes of bees because they're this highly social organization with different tasks devoted to different castes. The workers are all female, but they don't reproduce, and they pretty much do everything. So they're the ones out collecting the pollen and taking care of the eggs and the larvae and stuff. The drones are really only about mating, and the queen is only about reproducing. So she's the only female in the whole hive that reproduces. There's only one, and
So only the females bite?
yeah, only the females sting.
Stay on.
That's true for all bees, because the stinger is a modified ovipositor, an egg-laying organ, and it first happened in the wasps, that the wasps evolved their ovipositor, their egg layer, into the stinger, some of them, the stinging wasps, and then the bees evolved from wasps. So, yeah, only females sting. And they all can, but only honeybees have that barb on the end of the sting. So for honeybees, they've got a little barb, and that's why we say it dies when it stings you, because it pulls out the little venom organ at the same time, and it'll keep pumping the honeybee venom into your skin. But for other bees, they don't have that, and so it just stings and it flies off, but it's far less painful.
So which species is more venomous?
The honeybee venom is pretty unique among bees, and it's the worst bee sting that I know. It's not as bad as a lot of wasp stings, but or ants, some ant stings are horrible. But honeybee, the venom is distinct, quite distinct from our native bee venom. So if you have a honeybee allergy, for example, you're probably not allergic to other bees because it's quite different chemically and everything else.
What about African bees? You're so much older.
Yes, Africanized bees are a strain of honeybees. So it's like a breed of dogs or something, you know, and they're domesticated species. So just like anything else, you can kind of breed them for the particular qualities you want. So the Africanized ones had been bred initially for Africa to deal with the climate, the differences in the climate there. But associated with those genetic changes, they also were much more aggressive. And some of them were brought to South America. I think they were introduced initially to Brazil, and then they sort of moved north. But they're worrisome because they're much more aggressive. And unlike other bees, which, you know, if you got stung by one of these little things, it's an independent female out on her own, protecting her, you know, laying her eggs. So she will sting you only if she has to, because she doesn't want to risk getting squished. And she wants to get away from you, get home and back to her egg laying. Whereas Whereas when they're part of a complex social system like this, where the individuals that are out in the environment are not the ones laying the eggs. So their job is to protect the queen. And so what they do is they're much more likely to sting you because they're much more willing to sacrifice themselves for the benefit of the hive. They don't have the same sort of self-preservation things in their fitness calculations as an individual would. Plus, they release pheromones when they sting you, which attracts other bees to you. And so that's usually why people die from bee stings, is because the whole hive can come, and if you get overwhelmed, I think the average person can deal with, it's like 10 stings per kilogram of body weight.
So you already got 4 times.
No, at a time.
Oh, okay.
In a small amount of time. But, so even, you can get a few hundred stings and survive, but even if you have no allergy, once you get a few thousand stings, you're going to like systemic anaphylaxis.
I think that was in the news last week, can't remember who it was, Watts or